Welcome back to the Toledo Rockets Podcast. My name is Brian Nowicki. I am your host. And today we're going to recap the basketball action from this weekend for the men's and women's basketball teams here at Toledo. We'll get started with the men's basketball team. They defeated arch rival Bowling Green 91-86. The win improved the Rockets to 21-7 overall and 12-2 now in the Mid-American Conference. 11 straight victories now for the Rockets as they sweep the regular season series with Bowling Green. There is a chance they could play in the MAC tournament if Bowling Green gets in. But 2-0 in the regular season against their arch rival from Bowling Green. For the Rockets, it's 11 straight victories now. And this sets a new school record for their longest MAC winning streak in a single season. So leading the way for Toledo on this one, Ray J. Dennis, 27 points. He came into the game averaging just under 19 points per game. He had 27 points, really took control in the second half. He also had 7 rebounds and 7 assists. He just took control in the second half. And this is the thing about this team, right? Bowling Green played really well, made a tough game, but Toledo they have the experience and they know how to win close games. And Dennis wasn't the only one really that played well. JT Shoemate had 18 points. Raheem Moss and Dante Maddox Jr. each had 13 points. And then Seth Milner added 10 points. Like I said, Bowling Green played really well. This was probably Bowling Green's best performance of the season, in my opinion. They just played really well. And then they played pretty tough down the stretch as well. Made a lot of 3-pointers towards the end, keep the game close. Some of those shots, even I don't think that they really expected them to go in, and they did. So they kept it close. But Toledo, I've said this before, they know how to win close games, and they did that today. Or I shouldn't say today, but they did that Saturday night. This is what I think the second game in a row now that they've had to play well down the stretch to win. And you look at what's coming up now. They have Akron on Tuesday night, I think it is, or is it Wednesday night? I'm sorry. Let me look at my notes here. It's Tuesday night. So they play Akron Tuesday night, and that is at Savage Arena in Toledo. That's going to be a good game, right? Akron is a team that beat Kent State earlier this year, and then Toledo went to Akron and beat Akron. Kent State is still tied with Toledo, first place, 12-2 for both teams in the MAC. Akron is right behind at 11-3, and the Ball State is 10-4. They lost over the weekend to Western Michigan, so they fell to 10-4. So those are your top 4 teams. And a win over Akron gives Toledo a 2-game lead over both Akron and Ball State. There'll be 3 games left in the regular season at that point. Puts them in a good spot to get one of the top 2 seeds. As we said before, they already played Kent State, lost at Kent State. They don't play a second time this year. So, if they finish tied for first place, Kent State would get the number 1 seed and Toledo would get the number 2 seed in the MAC tournament. But going back to Saturday's game, something I wanted to bring up. So last week I had mentioned Raheem Moss was my unsung hero of this team. And he's stepped up his game quite a bit in the last 3 games. He was averaging just under 12 points per game and 7 rebounds in that 3-game stretch. Well, Saturday night he scored 13 points. He only had 2 rebounds, but he did have 2 steals, and he leads the team in steals, so he added to that. He was 6 of 6 from the free throw line, which helped the Rockets to seal the victory late in the game. And again, he plays solid defense. He's got to play solid defense. And if you're going to be getting 12 to 13 points per game from him as well, he becomes one of the best players on the team. And a bit unsung because everybody's looking at Ray J. Dennis and JT Shoemate, is really the main guys. And then Dante Maddox has a really good 3-point shot and just pure scorer. Seth Milner scores quite a bit too. And, now you've got Moss that you put into the mix there. He's been starting all season and he's played well. Like I said before, he plays good defense. He's a physical player. And now he's starting to score 12 to 13 points a game. So that just makes this team even better going down the stretch and as we go to the MAC tournament. All right. So I already talked about what we're looking at with the top 4 teams right now in the MAC, with Toledo and Kent State at 12-2, Akron 11-3, and Ball State 10-4. Let's look a little bit at Toledo's remaining schedule. So I did say that on Tuesday night, they are going to be hosting Akron. Then next Saturday, or this coming Saturday, they'll be hosting Buffalo. Then the last 2 games are on the road, at Central Michigan on Tuesday, February 28th, and then the big one at Ball State on Friday, March 3rd. Those 4 games really have a lot to do with where Toledo's going to be in seeding going into the MAC tournament. Buffalo's a good team. They're not bad. They're a good outside shooting team as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes, but it is at home. Akron, we already said, they won at Akron, but Akron's a good team. That's going to be an interesting game at Savage Arena, but Toledo wins both of those games. Central Michigan's definitely a winnable game on the road, and they could have won 3 in a row there, which is a total of 14 straight at that point, heading into the game at Ball State. That's the potential they have. And then Ball State, of course, at 10-4 right now. If Toledo keeps winning going into that, they're going to be ahead of Ball State in the standings. So Toledo puts themselves in a good position. If they can beat Akron and continue to win going into that Ball State game, they're going to be at least the number 2 seed in the MAC tournament. And it depends on what happens with Kent State, as they still have to play Akron again. And I believe they play Ball State again as well. So it'd be interesting to see, who gets that number 1 seed between Toledo and Kent State if they continue to play the way they have. Obviously, if they both win out, Kent State gets the tiebreaker. Either way, you're looking at Toledo probably pretty much at this point the number 2 or number 3 seed at worst. Unless they, with 4 games left, they'd have to kind of collapse a little bit in these last 4 games for Ball State, I think, to catch them since they're 2 games back. But, a win against Akron probably puts them into almost a lock for the number 2 seed. So that's pretty much the men's basketball update. And now let's take a look at the women's team. And, they keep winning too. They got their 9th straight victory Saturday against Eastern Michigan, winning 84-64. So 9 straight wins for the women's basketball team, 11 straight for the men's basketball team. That's a combined 20 straight wins by the basketball teams at Toledo this year, the men's and women's. Current win streak of 20 games. That's outstanding. And you look at the women, they are now 21-4 overall and 12-2 in the MAC. Like I said, they beat Eastern Michigan 84-64. Ball State lost to Northern Illinois on Saturday, so there's now a 3-way tie on top of the MAC for first place in women's standings. Toledo, Ball State, and Bowling Green now all tied at 12-2 with 4 games to go in the regular season. And Toledo, by the way, does have both Ball State and Bowling Green on their schedule. So let's look a little bit better at this game. Quenisha Lockett had 21 points for Toledo. 5 players were in double-digit scoring. And they led this game 48-26 at halftime. Really early on in the game, they took control. I had a nice lead at the end of the first quarter. Like I said, they were up by 22 points at halftime, and they just cruised throughout the entire game. And, I talked about Raheem Moss, that he was my unsung hero of the men's basketball team. Well, last week I also said that Nan Garcia was my unsung hero for the women's team, and she continued to play well off the bench. She put in 23 strong minutes off the bench in this game. She had 8 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. So she continues to play well too. And when you get that off the bench, that's just huge for a team. So you look at where Toledo is then, 21-4 overall, 12-2 in the MAC. They're tied with Bowling Green and Ball State for first place. They have 4 games remaining. They will play at Akron on Wednesday night. And Akron's a solid team. Definitely a team they should be able to beat. Then a big one. They play at Ball State Saturday afternoon in Muncie, Indiana. Toledo's going to look to avenge a loss earlier in the season. It wasn't that bad of a game, but Ball State won 83-76, and they played really, really well this year. They were a good team last year too. And Toledo now is in position to have the shot, really, to win the MAC regular season title. And they have to win at Ball State, and then they will host Bowling Green at the end of the season. So, 3-way tie with Ball State and Bowling Green, but they play both of them yet. So that's why they kind of control their own destiny there. So they do play at Akron and then at Ball State. And then I mentioned Bowling Green, but before that, they will host Kent State on Wednesday, March 1st. And then the big one on Saturday, Battle of I-75 against Bowling Green in Savage Arena, the last game of the regular season. That could just be an epic game for the women's basketball team when you look at it. Especially if they're able to beat Ball State, they're going to put themselves in a position, let's say they beat Akron, Ball State, Kent State, where if they beat Bowling Green in that game, they're going to be the number 1 seed. They're going to win the MAC and be the number 1 seed. So that could be a huge, huge game on March 4th at Savage Arena. And no matter what, we know the game on February 25th, this Saturday, at Ball State is going to be huge for them, right? They're already tied with Ball State. This is their chance to take a game up on Ball State in this game, with Bowling Green looming on March 4th. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Definitely one of those situations where Toledo's going to be one of the top 3 seeds. All 3 of them are tied right now for first place. They could be the number 1 seed. They could be the number 2 or the number 3. And really, 1, 2, or 3 isn't going to be a whole lot of difference, except that if you're the number 1 seed, you won't have to worry about Ball State or Bowling Green until the championship game, if you get to the MAC tourney championship game, where if you're the number 2 or number 3 seed, you'll have to play them both. Assuming that you beat the one in the semifinal, then you would have to play the other one in the championship game. So, if you can get the number 1 seed, great. If not, between number 2 and number 3, there's not going to be much of a difference. But they're in good position to be one of those top 3 seeds. We know that. And we'll just have to see how it plays out here in the next 2 weeks, basically here. Hard to believe there's just 2 weeks left in the regular season at this point, but that's where we're at. So getting closer and closer to the MAC tournament. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's fun. 11 straight wins for the men's team, 9 straight wins for the women's team, 20 wins combined in a row. They're just clicking. You look at it. They both played very well last year, winning MAC regular season titles, and they're looking to try and repeat this year. Of course, the men's team is looking for their 3rd straight regular season title. And then the more important thing is trying to win that MAC tournament and get the bid into the NCAA tournament. So that's where we're at. 2 weeks to go. Let me know what you all think, how it's going to play out here in the next 2 weeks. Let me know in the comments. And thanks for watching today.